Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Mike McDowd. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a trivia question. Today's trivia theme, miscellaneous trivia. And we are welcoming to our latest edition, a new station who joined us, AM 1550 SLC Sports Radio in Salt Lake City and throughout the Salt Lake Valley, and with a special thanks to Program Director Dino Costa. Welcome to Sports Econ 101, SLC Sports Radio. It's great. We're constantly expanding our area.
Yeah, in Salt Lake City, they've got, of course, the Jazz. They've got the soccer team there. They're really into that, and then they have their new NHL team as well. What was it, Utah, the Utah Hockey Club or something like that? And that's how much I pay attention to hockey. But good for them, and we're thrilled to have all the good folks in Salt Lake City, Utah. That is in the United States of America, at least last time I checked. So
hey, listen, be careful. Be careful about talking about the people of Utah. They've got some of the greatest golf courses in the country out there. Very, very, very nice. And they've got some pretty good runs too. Up on the slopes.
A friend of mine is a congressman there now, Burgess Owens.
That's right.
That you were just listening to is former Vikings punter Greg Coleman, who's been on our show once before. He's going to be joining us in the next segment. We're going to have some fun talking football and probably some basketball, since we've got some what are we in the first couple of rounds here, right?
Yeah.
Well, the problem is Greg only knows about football, so we can't talk about basketball.
Listen.
He only knows about one sport, so
listen. My T-Wolves spanked your Lakers pretty good the other night. So let's not
not our Lakers.
Not my Lakers, man. I'm a Warriors fan.
Okay. I'm a Warriors guy. Okay. Hey, with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We are going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mike McDowd and our special guest, Greg Coleman, former Vikings punter. Hey, Greg, welcome back. You've been on the show.
Thanks a lot. It's great to be back, man. It's great to be anywhere.
It's funny. I remember a few years ago, there was this controversy about, should punters be in the Hall of Fame? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, first of all, it's a position just like any other position. And, when you looked at someone, I was a big Raiders fan back in the 70s, and Ray Guy, he was just like phenomenal. And I remember hearing some of his teammates say, we won games specifically because, he got the punt down in the 4-yard line. And when so it took so long for them to finally come up with that. Go ahead.
Well, punters are the low man on the totem pole, and we're the most important person on fourth down. We're part of the offense. We're part of defense. Yeah. Bud Grant, my former head coach, used to say that special teams is going to win us 3 games a year. Or whether that's on a winning field goal, kickoff return, punt block, field goal block, extra point block, or Coleman running for a key first down, all of that stuff went into the mix. And we really focused on special teams. And you talk about Ray Guy. And I'm not going to let this go. Ray Guy was what we call the godfather of punters. Sure. And when Ray was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Brian Barker and I were at a golf tournament out at TPC here in Jacksonville. And we said, listen, we should get some punters and go to Canton and support Ray. And we got about 15 punters that showed up in Canton. We had our number 8 jersey on, polo shirt, golf shirt, the number 8, which was fine with me because Ray wore number 8. So did I. So I still wear my number 8 Hall of Fame polo shirt. But, we had 15 guys sitting around, and Ray was holding court. It was like guys sharing stories and their memories and all of those things. And I think it was Boomer from ESPN at that time. He noted that we got 15 punters to come to support Ray Guy, and Ray was very, very humble, very, very touched that the fact that his contemporaries, his competitors, guys that he played against, would come and support him and be a part of his induction. Man, punters are we're all we got.
Hey, listen, we got to bring this home for our listeners that don't know Greg Coleman. Greg, the very first black punter in the history of the National Football League, amazing accomplishment. 10 years with the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to bring this home for you too, Greg. Cleveland, I want to say the Cleveland Indians. Yeah, right. I'm sure he could have played for the Cleveland Indians. Trust me, he's that kind of athlete. Played for the Washington Redskins. He before I mention his college, it's important to mention where he comes from. He went to a truly football powerhouse in Jacksonville called Raines High School, and they're the creme de la creme of high school football. Them and this other school. Well, was it Trinity Christian and Bowles right up there? But Raines is really the benchmark. And then he went on to have a phenomenal career at Florida A&M FAMU. He was inducted into the Black College Football Hall of Fame. Come on, we haven't had that. We haven't had a guy like you on our show before. And then to bring it home even further, he's been married to the same wife, Eleanor, I believe. 3 kids, 8 grandchildren, and to bring it really home, he was a longtime member of the Minnesota Vikings broadcast team for 32 years. Hello? Wow. 32 years. Who does that? I don't. I wish. Greg, what a life. And I think before we talk about your life, it's really important that I mention this to you, Greg. I know one time that you were playing for Cleveland, where it kind of all started, and you were a man of faith. That means you believe in God. And there's a story of you opening up the window, shouting out, "God, where are you? Where are you? I just want to play football. Hear my prayers." Tell us about that, please.
Well, it was very interesting. Forrest Gregg, who was the head coach of the Cleveland Browns at that time, gave me a shot because Tom Skladany, who was drafted in the 2nd round by the Browns out of Ohio State, didn't want to punt in Cleveland. Guys, pardon me here, but I got to plug this thing up because it just gave me a hit that I'm on low power and I don't want to lose you guys. So I'm going to try and multitask here and do 2 things at the same time. But
we know I think multitask. Sure, go ahead.
This actually could be this is breaking news on Sports Econ 101. We've never had this happen before. So, Greg, congratulations. You're the zenith. You are it.
Let me finish this story in Cleveland because it's so unique and it's so dear to my heart. And you talk about being a man of faith. I had prayed and was doing the things that God had asked me to do. And I tried out with 4 different teams and nobody wanted to make a decision. And I go back and I'm sitting in Cleveland watching this game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Minnesota Vikings. And I go to my 9th floor apartment window and I open it up. Eleanor's pregnant with our first child. And I'm screaming at God, "Where are you? You lied to me. You said if I would pray and do the things that I was supposed to do, you would give me the desires of my heart. Where are you?" And I closed that 9th floor apartment window. The next day, I got a call from the Minnesota Vikings and spent the next 10 years for them. So God has got a funny sense of humor. You tell him what you won't do, and he'll show you how good he is. And I'll tell you, here's the backdrop. Michael, because I don't think you knew this. When I was a little shorty, there was one team that I said that I would never, ever play for. And that was the Minnesota Vikings. So God had to wait. He had to wait all of those years to humble me to the point to say, "Hey, I'm in control, not you, buddy."
Yeah. So, well, let me ask you, why didn't you want to play for the Vikings?
Yeah, because every time you saw Minnesota, they were, listen, I'm in Florida. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. And they were under the frozen tundra of Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota. You could hear John Facenda, announcing those weekly clips about the Minnesota Vikings. And there was snow up to their eyes, their ears, their nose, and everywhere else. That's one reason. Second reason. But wait. Then they had a coach who wore a crew cut that stood on the sideline with those piercing blue eyes talking about Bud Grant and didn't say a thing. But here was the real reason. The Minnesota Vikings wore black shoes. And I did not want to wear black shoes because you got to remember, back in the mid-'70s, the Cool Brothers wore white shoes. Joe Willie Namath, Billy White Shoes Johnson, all the cool. So that was it, man. So those were the three reasons that I did not want to play for Minnesota.
Also, as I understand it, Bud Grant would not let you wear gloves when practice.
Oh, I've got a Bud Grant story with the gloves. When I got there, you're going to take a break here. I know you got to pay some bills and all that stuff.
Let's take a break because I know I want to hear this because a guy, John Vella, who used to be offensive line for the Raiders, talked to him, and he got traded toward the very end of his career to Minnesota.
Yep.
And when he went up with gloves, the offensive line coach says, "Hey, Grant doesn't want you to." He goes, "It's freezing out here. This is practice." Yeah. He goes, "No." And he goes, "Okay, that's it. This is my last year." All right. He was towards the tail end of his career anyway. Okay. So, again, as a reminder, guys, when I'm asking you this trivia question, if you know the answer, don't say anything until we get right back from break. What is the largest city in the United States without a public transit system? I might have to give you some hints on this, but I thought it was kind of. What is the largest city in the United States without a public transit system? All right. Stay with us. You are listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We are going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mike McDowd, our special guest, Greg Coleman. All right, guys, what is the largest city in the United States without a public transit system? What do you think? I'll give you a hint.
I'm going to say Anchorage.
Anchorage.
Alaska.
You know, I bet, I wonder if they actually do have a public transit system in there. So this one it's actually in Texas. And there's a baseball stadium close, if I'm not mistaken, like in it. Where the Rangers play?
Arlington?
Yeah, Arlington, Texas.
Wow.
Apparently is the largest city in the United States without a public transit system. Thought that was kind of interesting. Wow. Yeah. So, Greg, go ahead. Tell us your Bud Grant story.
Well, winter had come to Minnesota, and I knew that Bud didn't allow heaters. I mean, back in the day, both teams sat on the same sideline. So the opposing team had the heaters going and they had gloves and all of those things. So I would, migrate closer to that fine line to get some of the heat. And Bud would come over and shoo me back over the other side. Well, it was so cold that Fran Tarkenton came to me. He said, "Coleman, you look like you're cold." I said, "Francis, I'm from Florida." He gave me a pair of gloves. And he said, "Now, when Bud asks you where you got them, you tell him you got them from me." And sure enough, I took off my gloves, went out, punted, came back, put my gloves on, and Bud moseys over, still looking at the field, and he didn't even look at me. He said, "Hey, we don't wear gloves around here. Where'd you get those?" And I said, "I got them from Francis." And he turned and looked at me. He said, "Tarkenton gave you those?" I said, "Yes, he did." He just turned around and looked and said, "Well, just keep them in your pocket." That's when I knew how much juice Fran Tarkenton had with the Minnesota Vikings.
I love it. I love it.
So I do want to ask Greg a question here. So at the times when you're going into punt and they tell you, okay, actually this is one where you're going to either have to throw for a first down or run for a first down. What goes through your mind and the nerves? Because that's not an often called play.
No, I relish those opportunities because I consider myself one of the best athletes on the team. I mean, during the course of practice, I would play wide receiver. I would run the scout team quarterback. I came in the league running 4.4. So Bud didn't have to tell me to run. I took a few chances on my own. And really? But he would say, "Hey, if you run, you better make sure you make it, or you keep running." So there were a
Well,
number of times that it happened.
well, Greg, let's rewind it a little bit. When you were at Cleveland, I think you ran a 40 faster than Archie Griffin and Isaac Curtis, I believe. And
Well, I
so
was training.
you,
Yeah, that was
so
training
so
camp my rookie year. That was training camp my rookie year with Cincinnati, which I did not make it. And yeah, Paul Brown comes over and he said, "Hey, man, 4-4, that's too fast for a punter. We're going to try you at wide receiver." That didn't work out. Well, we're going to try you at defensive back. That didn't work out. So I knew that my days were limited in Cincinnati. But, thank God I got another shot, another chance the following year, signing with the Cleveland Browns, and Forrest Gregg giving me that opportunity.
Well, not everybody can punt. I mean, you gotta have like someone like me. I've got good hands, but I'm slow. But and my legs are not very strong. I could just never be a punter. Um, not every athlete can be a punter. I mean, it takes not only finesse, but you have to have a strong leg too. So go ahead.
Yeah, I started as a little shorty because I didn't want to get hit, didn't want to get beat up, didn't like the sight of blood. And I learned at a very young age. I was watching a game between the Baltimore Colts and I can't remember who they were playing, but they were playing at Old Memorial Stadium and it was cold, it was windy, rainy. And the punter came out on the field. He walked out with his clean white uniform on and he punted the ball and walked back to the bench with his clean white uniform on. And as a little shorty, I said, that's what I wanted to do. And that's what I wanted to be. So my adolescent years were filled with the imagination and the fascination that I could be a punter. So I started kicking pop cans over the fence, and then I started kicking balls over the houses and then over the electric wires, and nobody in my neighborhood wanted to punt. So I punted for both teams.
What about let me ask one quick. What about being a field goal kicker?
I was a better field goal kicker than I was punter.
really,
Longest field goal was 53 yards. Middle school, high school, even at college at FAMU. My longest field goal was 53 yards. And then all of my punting records, and I'll say this for trivia, who broke all of Greg Coleman's punting and kicking records at Raines High School and at Florida A&M?
not only that, Greg's a little modest here. He's not telling the truth. Here's the fact that you don't know, Edward, that I just had to guess, and the rest of our audience doesn't know. Greg could probably do anything he wanted to do. He was an absolute stud speed track star. Um, Obviously, football. Hold on, Greg. Did you play hoops as well?
No, they wouldn't let me on because track season and basketball season kind of overlapped a little bit.
Okay, now here's where I got to finish this up. You're going to tell me you probably play water polo as well. You were a phenom baseball player, and perhaps that was your best sport. You were telling me you were drafted by the Cincinnati Reds, and they were grooming you to perhaps take the place of one of the all-time great catchers in the history of baseball, last name Bench, first name Johnny.
Well, they wanted to draft me. They were very, very interested. They came down and, had this conversation, but I wanted to finish, high school with my guys. I wanted to go to college. They said, well, you can go to college and all of that stuff. We're not going to rush you because we do have Johnny Bench. And determined to be the first in my family to go to college and get a college education. That was more important at that time. But I don't have any regrets, even though baseball was one of my best sports. But I wanted to play football. And I'll go back to the question that I asked, who broke all of my records in high school and college at FAMU? None other than my cousin, Vince Coleman, who did play 12, 13 years in the major leagues. Vince was a phenomenal punter, phenomenal place kicker, great speed, obviously. Washington tried to do with him what Cincinnati tried to do with me. And he called me one day and said, because they won't let me punt. They got me running wide receiver. I said, Vince, go play baseball. and the rest is history.
it still breaks my heart how he got caught underneath the tarp and it's like it just ruined the World Series.
Oh
You know,
gosh, yeah, especially when they were playing the Twins, and uh, he his claim to fame is the only reason he got caught, it was a female tarp. Go figure.
Hey, Greg, at Florida A&M, are you telling me, did you not play baseball there?
I did not.
Why is that?
Because track season and baseball season, they coincided, and
Oh, okay, okay.
I was All-American hurdler. I qualified for the '76 Olympics, so I went to school on a football and track scholarship. So um, the baseball coach was my kicking coach, Pop Kittles, and Pop wouldn't do that to his dear friend, Coach Bobby Lang, who coached Bob Hayes and Ray Robinson and some of the greats at Florida A&M. But I did play City League baseball and all of those things. So I got my feel of the little round ball.
Well, and so 32 years. So I mean, there's so much to talk to you about. Not only are you're in the Minnesota Vikings, what Hall of Fame or Ring of Honor, and what 2 different times. What is that like for you? And I want to hit that, and then tell us a little bit about being inducted into the Black College Football Hall of Fame and some of the great athletes that you've joined.
Wow, man, that list goes on and on. I mean, you talk about Doug Williams, James Shack Harris, um, Michael Strahan, Shannon Sharp. Um, the list
Mhm.
goes on and on and on. And I had to count. Someone counted. There were a total of 7 different Hall of Fames that that somebody felt good about the body of work that I have done over the years, that it warranted being in those Hall of Fames. I'm talking high school, college, FAMU, the state of Florida, Track and Field Hall of Fame, the state of Florida Sports Hall of Fame was the latest, but the Black College Hall of Fame, where my contemporaries, men that I competed against, Art Shell and Henry Lawrence, the list goes on and on and on. So I am so fortunate, so blessed to be a part of so many great organizations. God has been good to me. There's no question about it. You talk about my wife, Eleanor, of 47 years. The kids, they all sacrificed. So they all paid a price. And now with this on the back nine of this journey, whatever time God gives us is dedicated to those kids, those grandkids, and my wife, Eleanor. I do have a professional speaking business, but I'm not out on the road each and every week because it's about creating memories right now. And that business, the message, I don't say that I'm a motivational speaker because I don't think anyone can motivate anyone, but I think you can inspire someone to do some great things.
All right, stay with us. We have to cut to a quick break here. Okay, what is the fastest aquatic animal? Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mike McDowd and our special guest, former punter Greg Coleman. All right, guys, what is the fastest aquatic animal?
Animal?
Besides Michael Phelps,
Yeah, it's not Mark Spitz.
yeah, I would say a dolphin.
I mean, I would think a dolphin too. So first of all, this fish can go 82 miles an hour.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, pretty fast. Basically, a marlin, a sailfish, can go 82 miles an hour. That's amazing.
Wow.
All right,
Wow.
go ahead, Mike. You're going to ask.
No, this is where our very special, distinguished guest, a man who's, I was thinking during our break, Greg, I think we're talking to the real life Forrest Gump. I mean, Forrest did all these things. Come on. Greg actually did them. Greg actually did them. I mean, it's unbelievable what you've done and accomplished. But one of the guys, where our show comes out of of course, you and I are in the Jacksonville, Florida area. Edwards in the San Francisco Bay Area. And one of the great Minnesota Vikings all time was the legendary Joe Cap. He was also a great football player, played in the CFL, the Vikings, and he was a solid coach for his alma mater, the University of California, Berkeley. Here's the sad thing about Coach Cap is that he never got to, he said he would never have another drink of tequila until his Bears went to a Rose Bowl. Well, guess what? That never happened. And, you want to talk about a character. That's one character, isn't he?
And one great leader. He coined the phrase 60 for 40. The year that he was the MVP of the team, he said he could not accept this award because it was all 60 guys, 60 guys for 40 minutes. And that epitomized who Joe Cap was. And you talk about being a great leader, one hell of a quarterback as well. And you are so right, Michael. He was one heck of a character as well.
Quickly, my father worked for the radio station KGO ABC News Talk 810 in San Francisco. I worked there too for a number of years as a news guy. Anyway, so Joe Cap comes to the station and they're introducing people, and my dad had no idea. My dad's wearing a red tie. He's like, "Hey, come here." He's like, "Grab me a pair of scissors, will you?" So he's like this to my dad's red tie. He says, "I'll take off that red tie. We don't have any Stanford colors around here." So that's the kind of, and he was literally cutting his tie. He stopped. But it's like, geez,
that's Joe Cap.
He's a nutcase. But everybody loved him.
Do you remember that video that came out? It was within the last 10 years. There was a big rivalry between him and some guy on another team. I mean, right? And the guy's got a cane, and they're up on stage, and they got
a little scuffle. Yeah.
I don't know what that was all about, but man, they're little feisty guys. Okay.
Edward, Greg mentioned real quickly, I think it's really appropriate that we have him on as a guest. First of all, 32 years as a broadcaster, doesn't miss a beat, doesn't even know how to miss a beat. And the man can talk. He's eloquent. He's beyond bright. He says he doesn't motivate people, but he inspires. Greg, tell us a little about the message that you deliver, especially to the young people. A lot of young people, especially in places like Jacksonville, San Francisco, Oakland, the inner cities, forget about it, even the outer cities. Everybody needs inspiration.
And with that, Greg, are you going to be the next Shannon Sharp with that $100 million podcast contract?
No, I don't think so, because again, you have to be committed to that. And I think what I'm committed to is my family, first and foremost, my God, first and foremost, my family, and those grandkids and the community that we serve, because my message is a message of hope. And when I say I don't motivate, no, you can't. I don't think I can motivate anyone, but like I said, I can inspire you through habits and rituals, and part of my journey, overcoming obstacles, and that was a catalyst of writing this book called Punt. Obviously I used it as my position, but I teach organizations, people, regardless, in the message is universal, a message of hope, whether it's for business owners, organizations, sports teams, or stay-at-home mom. It's the same. If I can stretch your mind to be resilient, and if I can stretch you enough to teach you how to punt, and I use the acronyms P, push through obstacles, U, understand your strengths, N, navigate through the crap of life, and then T, take calculated risks. And once I do that, I can teach you how to punt, flip the field, because that's the job of any punter. That's the job of any business owner, organization, to get the best out of that organization that they can. Then you can, you get a leg up on life. No pun intended. But I do believe that we all need hope.
Yeah.
And that's the message, especially the day and the climate that we live in, where everybody is at everybody, yin, 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 I think words are so powerful that God spoke the world into existence with words. Wars and rumors of wars are started with words. Families are created with words. Men and women come together with words. Hey, I think you look real nice. I think, I love you. All of those things. It's words. So I use words of hope to, as I mentioned, to help people understand that they too, yeah, and everybody can't say, well, Coleman, you talk about punting. I can't punt. I never played in the NFL, but the principles are the same. The habits and rituals are the same. If you can overcome obstacles through whatever means, and there's some proven methodologies that we talk about in the book and in workshops and keynotes and all of those things. And you say, well, what's in it for a corporation? Well, I mean, market share. When you get people to come together, regardless of what business you're in, you don't forget that you're in the people business. People make the world go round. And that's what we tend to do, to give those businesses and organizations, and just like, as I mentioned, the stay-at-home mom, a reason to believe, a reason to hope, and I tag off on my Flip the Field Friday phases with keep hoping, keep trusting, and keep believing.
And what a brilliant message. Do me a favor, Greg. Hold your book for our YouTube audience again, because I want people to find out where they can get this book. And where can they get this book?
Well, go to Amazon, or you can go directly to my website, gregcoleman8.com. Amazon, 2-day, 2-day turnaround. Sorry, guys, I guess we've got an Amber Alert here in our area, so that's the signal that you're hearing. But it's a great read. It's a fun read. It talks about the journey from Pee Wee to the pros, talking about overcoming racism, segregation, and all of those things, because I'm part of that generation who integrated middle schools, and I remember riding on the back of the buses and the white and colored water fountains and all of those things. So there's a little bit for everybody in this book.
I was going to ask you about that. Minnesota, being the first black punter, and just what was it like? Were people kind of going, a black punter? You know what I mean? With doubt. That's.
I think it was Bud Grant, because it was the atmosphere and the climate that he created, because he was one of the first coaches that put white and black players together in training camp, on the road, and hotels. Bud was so far ahead of his time. The cat calls you got, the nasty grams and the letters. There was no social media and all of those things. And I wish I had the mindset to keep some of those just as reminders. But I don't need a whole lot of letters to be reminded of how things were back then. And it's almost like we come in full circle right now. So what's needed is hope, is courage, courageous conversations, and people being honest, and under the umbrella of, I'm gonna get off my soapbox here real quick. Under the soapbox of men and women of God. And if God is your father, that means that I'm your brother.
Exactly.
And are you treating your brother in a godly manner?
Yeah.
And I'll leave it at that.
Well, I was going to say, and have you been a Christian for a long time?
Yes, I went to an FCA camp in Rome, Georgia, back in 1971.
Okay.
And, faith has been the cornerstone. We grew up in church, but it wasn't until I found that relationship with Christ. Yeah. And that's the cornerstone of our lives. And I know God is good. And am I perfect? Absolutely not. Even though my grandkids think I am.
Yeah.
But we are all still on the potter's wheel.
Yeah.
As God continues to mold us and shape us. And then once he gets us right where he wants us, say, okay, now that's over. No, then he has to put you in the fire. And that's how you bake that vessel. You know, you harden it into a vessel that he can use for his glory.
Refiner's fire and get the dross off. Yeah.
Yes.
And furthermore, you know, it's such a wonderful conversation and a profound dialogue we're having here, because when I look at Greg and look at Edward, I mean, I think we're coming to the point, and love to get your thoughts, where we just, like, you're my brother. I'm your brother. And, you know, who cares? You know, I mean, if you're the first, this or that, not that you're taking away the accomplishment, but let's just see people who are people.
Exactly.
You're my brother, and I'm hopefully I'm your brother. And you know, if we can just speak to people like that, then the world will be a much better place.
It's all about humanity, Michael, Edward. If you're right, if look at the humanity in everyone, because God created us. He created us all. He created us all, man.
Yeah. I mean, the only difference between us is you've got a little bit more melatonin, right? I mean, we
Exactly. And I'm better looking.
You know, yeah,
True.
that's it.
And I'm better looking. That's all.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I got to hand it to you. You're better looking. That's for sure. All right, our last commercial break here. That's not fair. You're better looking. Okay. Here's our last trivia question. Are you ready? What is the only country that borders the United Kingdom? What is the only country? Apparently, I didn't realize this. There was only one country that borders the United Kingdom. All right. That's our trivia question. All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be right back with some closing comments and our thoughts for the day. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mike McDowd and Greg Coleman. Third trivia question: what is the only country that borders the United Kingdom?
I have no idea.
France.
Ireland.
Oh, geez. Now here I am. With a name like McDowd, you should know that.
All right,
Dummy.
now, Greg, you got your Coleman, what'd you call it? You're off air. It was Coleman's preach.
Oh, it's called the pregame preach. You know, the thing that I miss about broadcasting is the segment called pregame preach. My broadcast partner, Paul Allen, would come down to me for Coleman's keys to the game, and he heard me speaking one night, and he switched it. He said, "I'm going down to Coleman for Coleman keys." No, I'm going down for the pregame preach. So for the last 20 plus years, 26 years, that segment right before the Vikings kickoff, right before the boom, I would tie faith and football in together. That was one of the most phenomenal portions of our broadcast. And it's still a hit with most Minnesota Vikings fans in our radio broadcasts.
That's awesome. Just love that.
Greg, that's brilliant.
Former punter for the Minnesota Vikings. Maybe they'll call your number again. You can kind of come up, be punting again.
They can't afford me now.
Yeah, exactly.
You still
okay, here's our thoughts for the day. So if salons always have hair on the floor and garages always have oil on the floor, what's wrong with the banks? Where's all that money on the floor? I'm looking for that. And you guys will appreciate this. Pregnant women are the only true bodybuilders.
Okay.
Right?
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. I mean, they're building those bodies inside them, right?
Yes, they do.
Out the steroids and all that kind of fun stuff. Anyway, Greg Coleman, it's a pleasure to have you on. We're definitely going to have you on again. And maybe next time you'll give us the pregame preach.
Absolutely.
Love to hear that. All right, audience, tune in next week on 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Bill Checker.